Okay, so today we are going to learn about the palm muscles, thenar, and the hypothenar muscle. So first, we should learn about what does thenar and hypothenar means. So let's say in our palm we have metacarpal. Why metacarpal? And then we have thumb on one side. So let's say this is the thumb. So in the thumb side, we call this as thenar muscles. From the thumb side, we have muscles which we call as pollices. So let's see whether we can identify those muscles. So here we can see this is the thumb. So as I said, we have the thenar muscles in the thumb side, and first muscle that is outward is abductor hallucis brevis. So let's see whether we can see that muscle more clearly. Yeah. So there we have the abductor hallucis brevis. And then we have just invert to that. We have flexor pollicis brevis. And then the muscle that we can't see superficially, but it is more deeper. The deeper muscle is the opponent's pollicis. So we have to remove this, we have to cut this abductor and flexor pollicis in order to see this opponent's pollicis. And then this opponent's pollicis is prominent because it joins into first metacarpal. All the other thenar muscles join into the phalanges, but this one joins to first metacarpal. So when there's a fracture in the first metacarpal, that will damage this opponent's pollicis. This opponent's pollicis is for to oppose the thumb and little finger so they can touch each other. Like this. So when there's a fracture to this first metacarpal, what will happen is the opposition of thumb will get impaired. So we call this as balance or fracture. So this is the exception because it is attached to the first metacarpal. And all these thenar muscles are supplied by the median nerve. But we have another horizontal muscle which is not shown here, which is adductor pollicis. This muscle is supplied by the ulnar nerve. And also there's another point in this. The ulnar nerve ends with this muscle. So we call this as graveyard of ulnar nerve. And then in this pink side, we have outwards out. We have the adductor. As this is the little finger, we call this digiti minimi. And then the flexor, digiti minimi. And then we have opponents, digiti minimi, which is deeper. Normally, if we cut superficially, we can't see that. The opponent's one is deeper. So we have to cut this adductor, digiti minimi, and flexor, digiti minimi in order to see the opponents. And then we have the palmaris brevis. So this palmaris brevis muscle is superficial. So it is actually removed here. So it doesn't have any bony attachments. So the palmaris brevis is a subcutaneous muscle. And also, as I said, in the thenar side, in this hypothenar side also, the opponent's pollicis is the only hypothenar muscle that is attached to the metacarpal. So, I'll erase this. So here in this picture, the flexor digitorum superficials are cut so that we can see the flexor digitorum profundus, because flexor digitorum profundus is inside or deeper to the flexor digitorum superficialis. And then we have the lumbricals. The first lumbrical, second, third, and fourth. So the function of this lumbricals is fixation at the metacarpal phalanges and then extension at the interphalangeal joints. So the thing about these lumbricals is they go like this in the palmar side, and then it comes to the dorsal side, that means to the extensor tendon side. So it enters to the extensor tendon. So it goes superficially and it curves and goes to the dorsal side. When this happens, it can make this interphalangeal joint extend and the MCP joint to flex. And also we can see the third and the fourth lumbricals are bipinnate, while the first and the second are unipennate. First, second, but these are bipennate. So when these are bipennate, we can remember these bipennate ones are supplied by the ulnar nerve, while the unipennate ones are supplied by the median nerve. So the origin of these lumbricals are flexor digitorum profundus, not flexor digitorum superficialis, but it is the profundus because it is deep. And then we got the interosseous muscles. So we know the common way to remember this: interossei, pad, and jab. So first we'll see about the palmar interossei. So palmar interossei, all are unipennate. And also it causes adduction. So as this causes adduction, it goes to the medial, the middle finger. All the other fingers go towards the middle finger. So in that case, we don't need to have this palmar interosseous for the middle finger. So this middle finger is a devoid of palmar interossei. While for the dorsal interossei, it is for the abduction. So that means it moves away. So as we discussed, we got two adductor muscles here, one for the little finger, one for the thumb, and one for the little finger. So thumb has abductor pollicis, while this has abductor digiti minimum. In that case, we don't actually have to have a dorsal interosseous muscle for these two. But dorsal interosseous, it can be 3 or 4. So sometimes this little finger may have interosseous. So yeah. So the thing that is happening is these are all bipennate. So you can see, and also we said in the middle finger, for the middle finger we don't have a palmar interosseous. But to compensate for that, in the dorsal interosseous, middle finger has 2. So middle finger is having 2 dorsal interosseous. And this is absent for the thumb and the middle finger. And we can see all are bipennate. So interosseous means they are between the bone. So let's say we got a clinical scenario where the damage is to the little finger. So let's say they're asking us if the damage is to the little finger, which muscle is not affected. So they are giving muscles. We have to choose the muscle that is not affected. So in that case, we should remember that dorsal interosseous is not there in the 5th finger. So it is the thing that is not affected by this injured. So the palmar interosseous is not there in middle finger, and sometimes thumb as it has an adductor pollicis. And then dorsal interosseous is not there in thumb and the little finger, as thumb has two adductors, adductor pollicis brevis and abductor pollicis longus. Little finger and also little finger has adductor digiti minimi. So for the palmar interosseous thumb, we don't have, we sometimes they may not have the adductor, not have the palmar interosseous because they have a separate muscle called adductor pollicis. So in that case, we got only 3 palmar interosseous. So all palmar interosseous are unipennate. So palmar interosseous can be 3 to 4 because first palmar interosseous can be absent. Because thumb is having a very strong adductor pollicis. So middle finger, which is the devoid of the palmar interosseous, tendon of the dorsal aspect of the middle finger has dorsal interosseous insertions of lumbricus, but not having the palmar interosseous. So they have the lumbricus, but not the palmar interosseous. And for the dorsal interosseous, it is for the abduction. So no palmar interosseous for the middle finger, but it has 2 dorsal interosseous, and all dorsal interosseous are bipennate, and adductor digiti minimi is there for the little finger, and adductor pollicis brevis and longus is there for the thumb. So they don't have this dorsal interosseous, and also middle finger has 2. So all palmar, and so this is the point you had to remember. All palmar and dorsal interosseous are supplied by the ulnar. So that thing you should remember. So as I said, opponens digiti minimi and opponens pollicis, it opposes the thumb and the middle finger, cannot be seen superficially. They are attached to the metacarp. If you can see aponeurosis, that means the other thinner muscles, obviously the opponens is not there because this is superficial. The palmar aponeurosis is superficial. If you can see this, that means obviously the opponens muscle cannot be seen because this opponens muscle is underneath the adductor and flexus. Abductor and flexus.